Hi, Shelby Joe Long here with the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast, where I have the opportunity to talk to entrepreneurs that have created a business out of their passion, out of their genius, and they've entered that into the marketplace to inspire you to think about your genius in a different way. Step out, become a consultant, become a coach, live your passion, do what you're good at. That's what we should be doing to help fulfill ourselves and to make this world a better place. Today, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about Rich's experience and his foundations for his consulting business and his coaching business. So, we're going to have that conversation. So, Rich, welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, thank you, Shelby Joe. It's great to be here.
Yes, great to have you. So, Rich, can you just give us your elevator pitch, give us your overview about what you do, and then we'll get into the how you got there.
Sure. Well, my elevator pitch is basically asking people if they've ever heard a speaker that they wish they hadn't. And a lot of times that speaker is them, because I've been working with speakers of all types for over 20 years to help them discover, develop, and deliver their best message. And that could be somebody who's just starting out or somebody that's been doing it for a while that needs to refresh and re-energize their message. So that has been the focus of my coaching career since 2004.
Been doing it for a long time. Have you always been in the coach space, or have you been a part of some organizations that have inspired that?
Well, I think I've always had a knack for finding the brilliance in other people. Back in college, I was a graphic design major, and we always had these roundtable discussions. People would put their project up, and we would do a roundtable critique. And while I never became a fantastic graphic artist, I was always able to help them manage to go from B grades to A grades. So having that eye for critique, I think happened long before I got involved in public speaking.
You and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. We're both in the speaking business and have been for a very long time. What inspired you to get into speaking or want to be a speaker or help others get better at speaking?
I never wanted to be a speaker. I did some drama in college,
Mhm.
which I didn't really want to do that either, but the girl I was chasing was trying out for play, and she said, "Come on, try out for the play with me." So I tried out for the play and I got the lead, and she didn't get cast, and it was a very short relationship. I got involved in speaking through Toastmasters, which I
Mhm.
also didn't want to join, but the girl I was dating invited me to Toastmasters. So I went to Toastmasters and joined. And while she and I didn't end up staying together very long, later I ended up joining Toastmasters and have been a member for 25 years. And that was
Nice.
where I got my first speaking opportunity, and the speaking bug bit me. It's also how I got my first professional coaching opportunity.
Nice. I see a theme in the reason that you join things, but glad that you sustained in that space. Yes. So tell me what it is you like about speaking. What's because it's some speaking is not something that very many people like and that are exhilarated by. So tell me what you like about speaking. Because I know what excites me about it, and I feel like I feel like it's kind of an anomaly to love speaking and love being in front of an audience and having reactions and having those conversations. I love that. So what do you like about it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a two-sided coin. I mean, growing up, I was always a ham. My mom was always entertained by what I had to say, and so I was encouraged to talk. And I was never really afraid to be in front of people. So being on stage gives me an adrenaline rush. I love to hear the audience respond at the end of a speech or during a speech. I love the laughter. But the other side of the coin is how I affect the audience. And where I really got that for the first time was after a year in Toastmasters. I'd been, being chosen best speaker every time I spoke by the people in my club. And after the that first year ended, my mentor came up and said, "Rich, you're a great speaker, but I could see you really doing something if you'd ever learned to say something. And it totally changed my approach from, hey, look at me, see how I can be funny, to how can I affect my audience? How can I change lives? And that's when I started wanting to be more of a real, motivational speaker. I mean, it's a phrase we don't like to use, but I mean, frankly, that's kind of what we do no matter what we're doing. We're always motivating, inspiring people in one way or another to change the way they think, change the actions they take.
Sure. Sure. So let's so when at what point did you said you've been in the coaching space for a while helping others, because there's a point that you become a speaker because you enjoy it, but what point did you realize that you wanted to help others do that, to be in a more service capacity, speaking and doing your own thing, but also helping others be in that space?
Well, I'd been in Toastmasters for about 5 years. I'd done fairly well. I'd gone to the semifinals of the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2002. One day at our club, we had a visitor come in who needed to give a Father of the Bride speech. And frankly, when you have to give a Father of the Bride speech, going to Toastmasters isn't going to help you in a short period of time. It's more of a long-term process. He talked to some of the leaders in the group, and they said, well, go talk to Rich. He's the best speaker in our club. So I got together with him. His name was Franz. And he said, well, can you do it? I'm like, I'll do my best. What are you going to charge me? Yeah, how about $100? So I charged him $100, and we would go to lunch every week, or go up to his flat up in, I think, well, I was in Utah, so that would have been Park City, and we would delve into his relationship with his daughter to find stories he could tell, to find the humor in their relationship, and he was not a great speaker, nor was he a great writer. So I really had to write his speech for him to the best of my ability in his voice, which by meeting every week, I was able to get his voice. We filmed his practices, we honed his delivery. And by the time he gave that speech, which turned out to be a wedding on top of a castle in Vienna, I had no idea. He paid me $1,000. Just kind of every time we went to lunch, he'd pass me another $100 bill. And I realized that I liked doing it. And after getting his letter telling me how well it went and how happy he was, I realized I was good at it. So when
Yeah.
you got something you love to do and you're good at it, go for it. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. Do you work with clients in a one-on-one capacity, or do you have group programs? How do you work with your clients?
I'm very much a one-on-one coach. Someday I will do groups and I'll have all sorts of different things going on, but I like to actually meet with people on Zoom, meet with people in person if I can, have weekly meetings, not monthly meetings. I don't want to pass them off to somebody else who I know, or who works for me, as so many coaches do these days. I'm more of a hand holder. Let's find out who you are, where you're at, and meet you there. I mean, I have some programs that I can put people through, but typically that program is going to shift based on who I'm working with. And so I try to customize everything I do for each different client I have.
Because every speaker is so different, and every speaker has their own charisma, which
That's
is how
right.
they have an audience for sure. What can you I don't talk to fellow speakers very often. Can you tell a story to our audience about a time that one of the most memorable experiences you've had as a speaker?
As a speaker, I had a great opportunity. Oh, how long has it been? It's been a long time. It's probably 20 years ago now. was living in Spokane, and I had just gone to the World Championship of Public Speaking for the first time, took third, and it got me a fair amount of notoriety. I ended up getting an opportunity with Principal Financial Group to give a keynote to their customer service people, people who spent all day on the phone. Now, I'd only delivered a couple of keynotes in my life, so I was putting something together. I didn't even have any guidance on how to put a keynote together. I was just doing my best based on what experience I had giving a 45-minute speech, which was at that point pretty much none.
Yeah.
And not only did I have to give the keynote, I had to give it 3 times because they would bring in different groups of about 100 customer service agents for 3 consecutive hours. It was a definite adventure, and I'm trying to get it filmed. I've got my friend in the back filming it, did a terrible job, can't use any of it, but really getting a chance to speak in front of that audience who basically didn't have a reason in the world to care who I was or what I had to say, which is where we find ourselves as speakers so often. We have to find a way to make it mean something to them. Despite my inexperience, I did that. I got great reviews. I got great response. And I wish I'd done something more with it. I didn't really capitalize on it. So it's memorable in that it was an adventure. It was kind of a first time. And it's memorable in that sometimes even an entrepreneur doesn't know what to do with the assets that they have.
For sure. Or you don't realize the value in it until it's very, very hindsight's 2020. It's like you can look back at that experience and don't think about how to leverage that when it's right in front of you. So
Right.
for sure. For sure. That sounds like a memorable experience. Hope you charge more than $100 for that.
Oh, a whopping 500.
Whopping 500. That's a pretty good rate. So talk to me about the business of speaking. So when you work with your clients, and is it mostly on, is it preparing people in a business space or preparing people for giving toasts or keynotes? What type of presentations are you typically coaching?
Yeah, Franz was the only toast I ever coached.
Yeah.
Ever since then, it's been emerging keynoters. That person who is getting close to retirement, who wants to get out of their job, and they're sure they've got a motivational message they want to deliver. And so I work with them to help them really pin down that message, to build their keynote, because I have since done a lot of research and there are a lot of different methods to write a keynote. So
Mhm.
we take a look at the different uh, foundational frames for keynotes and build one based on what's going to work for them and their purpose. I work with them on the delivery of that. But most important after that is getting them out there to speak. That's where most speakers fall on their face. They get
Mhm.
a great speech, they have a great delivery, they might go out and give it at their Toastmasters group, but then they forget they actually have to work to sell themselves. They
Yep.
have to make the emails, make the phone calls, do the networking, and ask to speak. And worst of all, they need to survive all the people telling them no, which, as a lifelong salesman, it's tough dealing with no all the time. And speakers hear no most of the time,
It's
vast
true.
majority of the time. And if you can't overcome that and keep going, you'll never get to the yes and get on stage.
Yeah, you talked about earlier about being a critic, and that's such an important part of speaking. But then if you're an emerging speaker, it's so important to understand that it's so important to have other voices and other perspectives involved and experience involved. And we've got to be ready for the no's and ready for the it's a mindset shift that you have to have as a speaker that things it's hard to be a perfectionist, right? And I know a lot of perfectionists that are speakers that are we're training to be speakers, and it's almost a mindset shift so you can put yourself in the position where you could be more conversational and more adaptable and emotional in your presentation. So it's a hard barrier to overcome, I think.
It is. It takes a lot of work, and most people are not willing to do the work, which is why most aspiring speakers stop.
Mhm. What do you think in the speakers that you've worked with? What do you think is the most, what do you think is the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge is usually getting them to overcome their prior perception of what being a speaker is. It's not getting up and talking all about yourself, talking about all your major accomplishments and achievements. It's about the audience. You've got to flip it so that whatever it is you want to talk about, your stories are great, okay, but why do I care if I'm sitting in the audience? Getting them to realize that is hurdle number one. And then hurdle number two is teaching them to actually deliver it, to not just deliver the way they've always delivered, unless they've always been good, but to find ways to power up how they are using the stage, how they are speaking just in general, whether they're on Zoom or hopefully more often in person. But then, the challenge of selling yourself is the ultimate challenge.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that's the biggest challenge is I mean because it's yes, you have to getting a paid speaking gig or getting any speaking gig is hard, and you have to be able to sell yourself to be able to do it. And if you don't know how to do that, or it's not even not knowing how to, it's just being confident in what you're saying, and the transformation or the lesson that you're offering is has value. And I think that's hard for speakers to envision that. I come from the world of I've been a college professor for a long time. And so give me 45 minutes, give me 90 minutes to hold the stage. I have no problem with that. I think the most challenging transition in going into the professional speaking world outside of academia has been the brevity in your conversation and having a very memorable and brief message to your audience that makes them want to interact with you. That I think is one of the skills that is the most challenging. And because 45-minute presentations are not memorable, you've got to figure out ways to make it memorable. I think that's very much aligns with what you're talking about, and it's challenging to do that because we're used to giving so much information, and sometimes less is more. But then it's got to come inside this whole brand package about who you are and what you want to do. So there's a challenge in that.
It's definitely a balancing act. And you another challenge in there is getting people to understand the difference between training and keynoting. A
Hmm.
lot of people just want to give a whole bunch of information because they're used to trainings. And
Yep.
a keynote is not that. You actually give very little information in a keynote, just enough to be memorable and for them to hopefully grab onto it. And if any
Yeah.
of them remember even one thing a week later, it's a major achievement.
That's a major win. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, what would you say to the person that is thinking about getting into speaking, but they're not quite sure about what they want to do? And I want to talk about speaking before I talk about the transition to entrepreneurship. But what would you say about a person that was interested in speaking?
I would take a look and find out why you want to be a speaker. Look inside of yourself. What is the reason you want to be a speaker? And have that clear. Doesn't matter what the reasons are, but you have to know what they are in order to be able to act on them with energy and with
Mhm.
strength. And then you need to find a coach. Doesn't you? I mean, it can be any kind of coach. I mean, maybe you don't feel you need to be coached on your message, in which case you probably do more than you think you do.
Right.
But at the very least, you need to find a coach who has experience getting people to where you want to go. A lot of people say, oh, don't hire a coach that hasn't done what you want to do. I don't believe in that because I know there are a lot of coaches out there that haven't done what you want to do, but have helped others do what you want to do based on their knowledge base and their ability to motivate the people that they work with.
Mhm. You've got to be around people that are doing what you want to be doing. 100%. Because
Get
that's a,
involved in networking groups. I mean,
yeah.
as much as I like Toastmasters, it's not really where I would send an emerging speaker unless they were emerging and just hoping to overcome their fear of public speaking, because that's what Toastmasters is about. You want to
Yep.
go be a professional? Go network with the National Speakers Association, with MIC, a meeting, and it's a meeting planners organization. I can't remember. The ASTD, Association of Training. Have you heard of that one?
Uh-uh.
There's lots of different speaking associations that you can visit for free and meet some people. Get yourself around people doing what you're doing, and you're going to be more in the mix of learning who you need to be and why you need to be that way.
Well, Rich, what is next for you in your business, in your speaking? Are you looking to speak more? Are you looking for more clients? Are you looking to add some new things to your business? What are you looking to do?
It's always twofold for me. Keep coaching because coaching is kind of the short-term bit. It's a short runway, so I can work with people, I can help people, but ultimately I'm still looking towards the longer runway of getting out there and speaking.
Mhm.
I've been married 25 years. We brought up 6 kids. My oldest is a senior, which means I'm really now at a place where if I'm going to fly and go speak somewhere for a weekend, it's not a problem. If I'm
Right.
going to do it 3 or 4 weekends out of a month, that's not a problem. So now is the time that I am really ramping up myself as a speaker, spreading my win anyway message, which if people go to my website, richhopkins.com, they won't see anything about coaching, but they'll see everything about who I am and what I speak about.
Great. That's great. You beat me to the punch. I was going to ask where could people find you and be in touch with you if they are curious about what you do.
Well,
richhopkins.com. You actually,
richhopkins.com, but you can also just Google me.
yeah.
Google Rich Hopkins speaker, and you'll get a whole bunch of results. Just know that I am not the stunt double, and I am not the rock star. Those are different Rich Hopkins.
Well, Rich, what would you say to the emerging entrepreneur or maybe doesn't know that they're an entrepreneur yet, maybe is thinking about transitioning careers and industries? What would you say to them about creating a business out of their passion, out of their genius? Because that's what we want to do is inspire people to think about it in a different way.
Absolutely. And whether you're a speaker or a coach, they're both entrepreneurial businesses.
Mhm.
So you have to think about it as a business first, which means expect that you're not going to make a tremendous amount of money at the beginning. Have a nest egg. Don't quit your day job until you have maybe 6 months or even preferably a year's worth of monthly expenses in the bank so that you can leave your job and survive and then totally focus. But if you're not going to leave your job, one of my favorite lines that I hear is that your regular job is the easiest interest-free loan you will ever get to fund your business. So make sure you have
Way
the
to look at
money and you're not stressed out about money because it will stop you cold, put you in paralysis. But absolutely go after what it is you want to do. Just do it intelligently, with intent, and make sure you're going to enjoy doing it.
Absolutely. Those are some good pieces of advice. I think it's so important there is a blueprint. There is a way what you can follow. I talk about it all the time. There's genius entrepreneur. You can create a business out of your genius, but you got to do it in a calculated way and in a way that's not endangering other things too. So there's always a way to do it. And you can always find experts or people that are more experienced in industry that can help lead you along the way. Finding a mentor and a coach is really important. So I encourage them to look out to you if they're curious about becoming a speaker, Rich. And that's that's how we build. We build together. We don't build separate. So I think that's important to remember too. Well, Rich, any exciting things that are coming up on the horizon? Are you speaking anywhere in the upcoming weeks?
Well, gee, I just got done doing a podcast, but I guess I can't tout that, right?
Sure you can.
I have a few things going on just in terms of speeches at some Toastmasters situations where they aren't my club, but they are bigger opportunities to speak. I'm going to be doing an MC opportunity at the beginning of May. But honestly, everything's on the back burner because I'm looking for a house. We're actively making offers on houses right now. And so everything else falls into the background, all blurred, just like my background is today.
Yeah, that's a big disruptor in your life as if you're looking for a house for sure. So yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you on the speaking circuit, and I look forward to seeing you at Speaker Speak Live every Wednesday, which is a great place to come if you are interested in speaking and surrounding yourself with emerging and professional speakers. I think it's a great place to be.
Absolutely. I've had a great time at Speaker Speak Live over the last 4 years. So if people want to see me speak, they can always tune into my YouTube channel as well. I'm
Yeah,
putting out shorts every single day.
good for you. Building the library, which is important to do. Got to be consistent. Well, Rich, thank you so much for coming to the podcast today and sharing your knowledge and telling us about how you got into a work that inspires you and that you're passionate about. I think it's amazing. Thanks for telling your story.
Thanks for having me, Shelby Joe. Enjoy your day.
You too. And all you listeners out there, you can do it too. There's a way that you can turn your expertise into an income stream. Doing it in a logical way is preferred. Not necessarily the way everybody does it, but it can happen. Just feel free to reach out if you have any questions about speaking for Rich, or if you have any questions about how to build a business out of your expertise. We will see you next time when we tell the next story of a genius entrepreneur that has turned their business or turned their expertise into an income stream or multiple income streams, because you can do it too. We'll see you next time.